Hey everybody, Kendall with Crispi, and we're talking about the early season, I guess scouting season, early season boot lineup. I've got here 7 boot models, 8 total boots. I'll answer that trick question later as far as the models and numbers of boots. But I've personally used all of these except for the newest boot to this lineup. So I want to talk a little bit about each boot and how it fits into if you're a bow hunter or you just simply want something that's lighter weight for scouting, training, etc., what you were doing right now in the summer. I'll just go front and around to the back. The boot here at the front is a crossover. We have this also in a brown with black. This is the gray with orange. I think this is a sleeper in lineup, and I took the crossover and used it for an entire season, from archery shoots, the TAC events, Northwest Mountain Challenge events, used it in Colorado for my high country mule deer hunt, used it in Idaho for my elk hunt. Most of the time I ran it with a gator. This is like the everyday wearing boot / shoe. It's really in that hybrid zone. At a 2 flex and highly breathable because of the stretch nylon padded tongue. The name crossover comes because of the tongue. It's not a 2-sided tongue like most traditional shoes or boots. It has that tongue that comes over the front, hence the name crossover. Asymmetrical or lacing all the way down to the toe. Not that you really need it, but you'll see in a lot of approach shoes, and there's a boots in the Italian outdoor line that use the same model, the crossover model as a foundation. And so that's why the lacing comes down into the toe, so that on maybe steeper terrain, maybe you're going over a lot of rocky or kind of approach type situation, you can cinch down the lacing. I didn't really need to do that. I think the fit on this, I have a normal, I'd say maybe just a slightly wider than normal foot, and I found that the crossover did accommodate my foot, but if you've got a wider foot, this one's probably not in the wheelhouse for you. But at basically a 6-inch height, if you're going to be using this in really steep and other type terrain, I would recommend throwing a gator on it. But at a 2 flex, it's extraordinarily comfortable. It really can take a lot of beating in the mountains, and surprisingly so. You look at it and you think, oh, there's not much to that. But fully Gore-Tex, never got wet. Fantastic option if you're looking for everyday or early season or something you can stock in. One of the difference you'll see on a lot of these boots in the early season, and one consideration that I use, is how deep are the tread? How deep is the rubber on the tread? Because with a less deep tread, you typically can move a little more quietly. You can move maybe a little more nimble, and it presents an opportunity for stalking. Whereas a deeper tread, like for example, what's on the Colorado II or on the new Altitude, you definitely know you're in a boot. So in this lighter tread or less deep tread that we have in the crossover, it's kind of in that middle ground. And that's why a lot of guys will use this on an everyday type use. Moving over to the next option, the Thor GTX jumps, even though it's extremely lightweight as far as ounces, at a 4 flex, it's definitely got a little bit more beef to it, which is a unique boot throughout really any boot company that I've seen. If you go this lightweight, just barely over a pound per boot on a size 10, you're typically going to find a flex that certainly is not a 4 flex. It's going to be more like that 1.5, 2.5 range. But the reason that this is such an interesting and good boot is this, even though it's a 4 flex, I found that once you put on your foot, it almost like pushes down into that 3.5 flex. And the reason being, again, back to the sole, is you just don't have a lot of rubber on the sole. It's not as deep of a tread, and the midsole being two different densities of EVA, it's a little bit less substance of a midsole than you have, for example, on the Altitude, where you have a much thicker midsole. So even at a 4 flex, I really think once it's on your body, it comes down into that 3.5 range. You can move nimble. You don't have added ankle support. In fact, on this entire lineup, I don't want to digress too far, but there's only one boot that actually has the ABSS. All of these lightweight early season boots, the only one that has it is the Colorado. So you're not getting a bunch of extra ankle support outside of what the boot shaft creates for itself. But the Thor is a fan favorite. Definitely there's a tribe of people that love that boot because If you do get into a little bit steeper terrain or some sort of technicality of terrain and you're going to require more out of your boot, the Thor is certainly up for the challenge. It breathes extremely well. All the boots I've tried in our lineup, this is probably the last one I tried, and I was shocked at how comfortable it was out of the box. Crazy comfortable. It doesn't look comfortable to me, but I was really surprised there. Moving over to the Summit family, this is the women's version and the men's version. Same boot as far as the ingredients and the flex. They both come in at a 3 flex. I'm just going to hang on to the ladies' version here. 3 flex has the Crispi proprietary Vibram sole. This sole does have more rubber. You really transition from these boots into this one and you know you're in a boot. You've kind of moved out of that hybrid terrain. I do love the support this Summit gives. On a separate season, I took the Summit on the same journey that I did the Crossover. It went everywhere, did everything. Preseason scouting, setting trail cams, shooting in my backyard, shooting at the Northwest Mountain Challenge and the Total Archery Challenge, into Colorado, into Utah, antelope hunting, elk hunting. The Summit can do pretty much everything. And we find of all of our boots, the Summit's the one that more guys are wearing. If you're a boot guy and you just wear a boot every single day, the Summit's the one that more people are wearing on a day-to-day basis. Highly breathable, extremely lightweight, and you'll see in the Summit 2, we've increased the strength of this fabric here with the PU Tech versus the Cordura, which we had in the past. So the Summit's certainly worth your consideration for that. Do everything lightweight, early season, highly breathable boot. Moving to the back row, let's start right over here with the Colorado. This is a 4 flex, but it's a different 4 flex. Again, like I was saying before, just because it says 4 flex and the Thor says 4 flex doesn't mean you're going to get the same feel out of both boots. With more rubber on the Vibram sole, dual density polyurethane midsole, and the ABSS, you're just it's a different feel. And if I have 2 boots that I have to have in my quiver, this is one of them. And the reason being is because it's light enough that I can run it through early season. It breathes enough that I'm fine archery hunting in it. But it's also technical enough that if I get into really crazy terrain or I want to ask more of my boot, the Colorado's up for the challenge. So Colorado 2 is definitely, it's a stiffer, little heavier version than any of these other boots in this early season lineup, but worth your consideration depending on where you are and what you're expecting your boot to do. Talked about flex before, the 4 flex in the Thor and the 4 flex in the Colorado not being equal with all things considered. And that's where the Lapponia is really interesting because it's extraordinarily lightweight, similar to the Thor in overall ounce per ounce. But it's 2 flex, even though the Crossover and the Attiva Mid are a 2 flex, the 2 flex in the Lapponia is so different. Let me kind of visually show you this. I mean, this flexes right here and it just flexes super easy. Go to the Crossover, also gets that same flex right in there. But what's interesting is in the Attiva Mid, it's almost a continuous flex. There isn't that sharp like flex point. And not that it's bad, but I'm trying to show you there's differences in boot to boot when you're in a same flex category. So Lapponia's come a long way. This is the Lapponia 2. We've changed the color from the brown to the gray, changed the lacing system, changed the upper, added some PU Tech to maintain support by minimizing some of the additional pieces from the original one. This is a light and fast. You can run in this if you needed to. If you run a 5K in this boot if you needed to, you could wear it every single day. I took again, this guy went on the same journey as my other boots. My typical season from all the setup, antelope, Colorado, deer, high country into elk season here in Utah, and it was in Montana with this. Love the Lapponia. It is very comfortable, very lightweight. Again, breathes exceptionally well. You can ask more of this boot if you physically are willing and able to go into steep kind of gnarly terrain. So Lapponia, definitely put that on your radar. I'm going to skip over the Altitude, jump to that last. Back on the Attiva Mid. I absolutely love this boot. At a 2 flex, I love the continuous flex. The Vibram sole, a little bit different tread than any of our other boots. But the Attiva Mid, the one thing that you have to know, if I was going to rate ankle support, just natural ankle support that you get from the boot, not talking Colorado where you have the ABSS, but just ankle support from each of these boots, I would put the Attiva at the lowest end. And the reason being, A, it's not quite as high. You're more like crossover. You're at about a 6 inch, 7 inch. Whereas Lapponia is definitely a little bit higher. You see the height difference there. I wear these two boots for a lot of my summer type activities, just hiking, scouting. I recently got into paragliding. These are the two boots that I use for paragliding. And I notice a huge difference in the support from the ankle that I get out of the Lapponia naturally, and then what I do or don't get out of the Attiva Mid. Now, don't take that as a negative. I just simply want to tell you that's the feel you're going to get. If you want a real athletic, fit shoe, boot, that you're not going to demand a lot of ankle support. You want to demand high mobility. I mean, you can stalk like a ninja in this boot. I antelope hunted last year in Montana, spot and stalk with my bow. I literally ran in this boot like across the Montana prairie. As soon as the goats kind of go behind a hill, I would just take off in a full sprint, and you can do that in this, and you don't feel like you're in a boot. You really feel like you're in that pure hybrid zone, similar to what I felt in the crossover. So Attiva Mid's crazy breathable, very, very lightweight, and certainly the quintessential, I think, early season lightweight stocking type shoe. And I say shoe because I really feel it's kind of in that hybrid zone of shoe to boot. Last one on the early season lineup and breathability, lightweight, is the Altitude. And the Altitude is built on a similar platform. There's a lot of visual similarities between the Attiva because the upper was patterned after the Attiva. But if you look at the lower, you've got the same sole, midsole, or same sole, excuse me, that you have on the Summit, and you have the EFX dual density polyurethane midsole, which is a wee bit different than what we see on the Nevada, but the same thing that we have on the Wyoming too and the Idaho, which are more of a true mountain boot. We run the lacing a little bit farther down in versus the Attiva into the toe box. Hardware's a little bit more beefy and the height just a little bit taller. So you're going to get more natural support, and you're going to get more kind of pack out cushion, I suppose, or rebound out of the sole midsole, but in a lightweight package that breathes exceptionally well. At a 2.5 flex, it really fits this kind of niche that we wanted to find. So, and when developing this with Crispi Italy, I think this Altitude hits that perfect niche between lightweight, breathable, good support. If I'm hauling maybe a little bit heavier load, I'm going to get a lot of good pack out support and absorption in that midsole. So this kind of lines out the, again, 7 models, 8 boots. We've got the ladies covered over here. This is an interesting discussion, and certainly I've tried to cover about all the details that you might be thinking of as you're lining up for that one boot that can do most of the summer and early archery season, or you're looking to say, hey, my feet just absolutely cook, or I live in a desert and I want a Crispi that can suit me well for those different occasions. So if you have additional questions or you want to follow up with us, leave a comment below in this video. Call us up, drop us a line. We'd love to try and hone in that right boot for your foot as well as the type of hunting that you like to do.